going through the process of being to the farm, going through the transport back into the store and seeing the whole system work. You could honestly stand there in front of a customer, hand on heart, and say it's guaranteed quality. You're going to be more than happy.
This is the Australian Butchers Guild podcast, brought to you by Meat and Livestock Australia, the podcast for passionate butchers.
G'day meat lovers, I'm your host Doug Piper. Well, it's time to sit back or keep cutting while you listen into another ABG podcast. In a few moments, I'll be catching up with a very well-known Sydney butcher and long-time mate of mine, Trent Geary. Trent has a wealth of knowledge when it comes to running businesses. He was a manager and supervisor for one of the country's largest family-run butcher chains, and until recently was a key driver behind a highly successful group of independently owned butcher shops in Sydney. If you're thinking of going into business for yourself, listen in, because Trent is going to share some of his experiences and learnings from his time managing, supervising and owning a butcher shop. A great mate of mine and owner of Illawong Village Meats, Trent Geary. G'day, Trent.
G'day, Doug. How are you, mate?
I'm very well, buddy. How's things with you?
Mate, couldn't be better, actually.
Yeah? That's the way. I'd like to hear that.
New step in the career.
Yes, and you're glad you made the move?
Oh, definitely, mate. It was I think it with any young bloke, my age, 46, young bloke. I'll say that again. Any young bloke, taking the step. I think everyone's wanted to go that way at some stage in their career. Yeah,
but it's been a long journey to get there. 46 years old, going into your that's a big change at such a late stage of your life. It's a big change. Big commitment too.
I've been in the industry now 30 years. I was with AJ Bush and Sons for the first 20 years. So when I left there, a lot of people thought that I'd make the move, but obviously not having the monetary funds behind me and probably a little bit of self-doubt probably kept me away from making that decision early. But as things changed down the track, I was very lucky at the time to make a snap decision, just to be in the position where something jumped on my feet at the right time.
You started out like most butchers, probably very young, went into a butcher shop, did your apprenticeship, blah, blah, blah. Was it always with bushies that you were working from day dot, or were you working for somebody else?
Yeah, so I dropped out of school. I was very privileged to go to a good school, but I just couldn't handle it, you know. I couldn't judge the numbers, I couldn't judge the letters, and I couldn't understand it, but I was good with my hands and good with the things that I saw. So combining my visual with practical, that's where I started to excel at 16.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a common story with a lot of butchers that we've interviewed over the last year and a bit. So bushies, mate, I remember them way back in when I was probably an apprentice back in the probably early 80s, late 70s, early 80s.
That's when I was born, Doug.
Thanks, mate. I know they had roughly about 100 stores at that stage, didn't they?
Yeah, well, when I come on, I think I was 16, so that was back in early 92. And I know the stories from the fellas that I used to work with. They had over 120 stores. Now, obviously, I started in Wollongong, in Fig Tree, in a small three-man store, and then things obviously changed very rapidly, I dare say, for the meat industry in the mid-90s.
We saw a lot more focus on quality rather than quantity, didn't we?
That's correct, yeah. Yeah, we had many influences in AJ Bush and Sons come through and try and turn the company in a different direction.
So from there, they went from about 120 stores and really did a bit of a cull they got rid of quite a number of stores down to, I think when I started with MLA, I think you might have had maybe 40.
Yeah, well, I think there was 55 stores when I first started, and I was with them for 20 years. And I know when I left back in 2012, we had 26 stores still.
That whole journey, you experienced a lot of change, obviously, and you grew into the business as well. So you went from working, then managing, and into more of a supervisory role, didn't you?
Yeah, correct. As I said before, like from school, I was terrible at school, but great with my hands and visual. And within 12 months, I was helping being a 2IC back then, which grew into management within the first 2 years, which was very, very nervous as a young bloke trying to tell a 50-year-old butcher what to do.
I know the feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah. But somebody's got to have the brains behind it, or somebody's got to have the passion, because we see that a lot. I saw that a lot in my day, actually. You know, you couldn't you couldn't talk to the older butchers. They didn't want to listen to you.
Correct.
You had a vision. You had, I think, being a younger person, you had more of an idea of what was actually what people were looking for, and you'd seen a lot more. You didn't have your head in the sand. You didn't have your blinkers on. You actually looked outside the square and saw what was going on, and hey, we could try that, or we could do something like that.
Definitely, and I think the boys at TAFE, Terry Bush,
Yep.
he was a straight shooter. He was a great, strong man, a very firm believer in what his passion was, and that was changing the attitude of many young blokes coming to TAFE, getting together, thinking they know it all. A lot of testosterone getting thrown around back in those days.
Yeah.
And he was sort of like the police officer of us young blokes. Pulled us into line, changed out the way that we thought, changed the way we dressed when we come to TAFE, that sort of thing. So, yeah, it was a big change.
I knew Terry quite well, not for a long time, but I always saw him as a great role model for apprentices, because he set the example. He always came to school or to TAFE dressed correctly. He instilled that same sort of pride in the way that you guys at the TAFE, all the apprentices coming through, looked after themselves, dressed themselves, made sure they came, didn't take any garbage off anybody.
Correct.
He had a great way of maintaining that discipline without being a real hard guy, but he knew how to handle you. He had great people skills, put it that way.
Yeah, he could see what you had. As I said, he was like a police officer or like a school principal, but he also mentored you. Mentor is probably the better line. And he had plenty of rascals go through the system, but he could always pinpoint the guys that had a bit of passion.
Yeah.
And always had time for you. I know I went back to him many times over probably the first 20 years when I had self-doubts or thinking, am I on the right track? I probably went back to him a dozen times over the 20 years.
Really?
Yeah, and he always had time for you, whether it was during work, after work.
Yeah, he was good like that. I knew a few butchers that, or know of a few butchers that went through that time with him at TAFE, and they were sort of always going back to him, always asking him questions, and he was always there for them whenever they needed. So he was a great ambassador for the teaching industry in TAFE, that's for sure.
Yeah, correct. I agree.
So with bushies, mate, I remember the quality side of it and the branding way back probably about 15 years ago when I first met you. They implemented brands into the business rather than just selling rump and Scotch fillet and T-bone.
Yep.
You brought in a lot more. Everything was branded, like all the way through to the chicken. That was very successful for the company, wasn't it?
Oh, definitely. I'd go back more than 15 years. I'd probably go back 25 years ago.
Right.
When River in a Blue, which was an MSA-based program, and that was a changing of the guard, really. We also had Sunland Pork, and Leinica Chicken from Melbourne was brought in as well.
And then from there you had the lamb program started a little bit later, didn't it?
Yeah, the Spring Lamb program, which obviously I did a video of that years and years ago up there at Castle Hill.
Yep.
And we were lucky enough to do a study tour with the company. We went down to Cowra and went down to Junee and got to see the farms and how it worked, and they were great times.
And that whole raising the standard or raising the quality of the meat really put you guys ahead of the rest too, because you had the brand, you had the grading system that underpinned the brand in your beef and your lamb. Because I remember your Crystal Springs, that ended up to be on the grading program as well. That was underpinned by MSA, so that made your job as a butcher and a manager a lot easier when you're dealing with the public too, wasn't it? Because you knew what you were selling was brilliant. And I remember buying some of that stuff, and mate, that was always very good quality.
That's what made the job easy. Knowing that you've got the quality and the backing behind the product. You could honestly stand there in front of a customer, hand on heart, and say, buy this. You can take it away. It's guaranteed quality. You're going to be more than happy. Going through the process of being to the farm, understanding the story, going through the abs, going through the transport back into the store, and seeing the whole system work, that's where you knew you had the backing and the confidence to be able to do that.
Yeah, definitely. Makes a big difference, makes a huge difference. And with the also with the supervisory side of what you were doing with Bushies, did you have much to do with like dealing with management? Obviously, you were looking after the teams around the place, all the different stores and that, like management skills, all that side of it. How did you adjust to that coming from a butcher? Did you do any courses? Did you do any sort of personal development that way?
Yeah, well, it was probably easy for me because back in the day, we had a team of supervisors. There was actually four of us, led by David Barnes. So he's probably 75 years old now. He'd probably kill me if he heard that. But he had an older fella named Ian Blanning.
Yep.
And another one, Matt Hand. So I was the youngest of the four. So it was very easy for me. They took me around to the openings of stores, new stores. They sent me all over the place to learn new systems. And being a little bit younger than those guys, it was very easy for me to talk and get the other staff to understand before they made it an official role. So I was quite lucky to be the youngest of the crew, obviously having to do all the hours as well. I'm sure they took their advantage of doing that. But my enthusiasm, obviously not being married at the time, not having kids, it was easier for me to put more of myself and drive behind their ideas.
Yeah, that's always the way, isn't it? When you've got no commitments there, you can do. You're a lot more flexible with your time, obviously, and it's good that they look to you to instill a lot of that sort of the changes and the protocols, I suppose, in the business. It was good that they looked to you to instill that. The negotiation with centre managements and things like that, were you involved in much of that at all? Or
obviously, being in that role for 10 years, we would always have pre-meetings about ideas coming up, shops coming up for sale, leases finishing. So we would have pre-meetings before any decision was made with John Bush and Norm Bush, and we would put our verdicts and our opinions on the table. And it was an open table. It used to be good. Every Tuesday we'd have a meeting, and it was no holds, you just wouldn't hold back on what you'd say. So it was open, free for all, and you could have your opinion on positive things, negative things. So if we didn't like a particular store in a struggling area, you could say, no, I don't think it's feasible. This is a great area. It's a growing area. Let's put our backing behind that. So obviously the dealing with leases would be above my sort of pay grade. It would always be with the owners, but they would also respect, the information and the feedback that we had.
That's a crucial part, that feedback side. That's great that they actually included you guys into it, because at the end of the day, you were going to be responsible for that, weren't you?
Oh, correct. Yeah, because they got their reputation on the line, and no one's right in our industry. And I think the more information you can gather from whatever field it is, whether it's information coming through from the land, information coming through for what sort of people are going to move into the area, all that information helps you make a decision. So I don't think anyone's right or wrong.
What sort of shops did you prefer to go into? You're all in shopping centres. What did you look for? What, as a company, what did they negotiate? A lot of guys out there, and I'm included in that thing. I just couldn't wait to get into my first butcher shop. I had an opportunity when I was very young. I went into a shop that I'd worked in for 5 years, but it was just a little strip shop on the Northern Beaches. Really good area, probably one of the higher income sort of areas on the Northern Beaches there, and it was a great little business. But it was a real eye opener for me when I first went into the shop, even though I figured I knew how to run it. So, what did you sort of look for? What ticked the boxes for you when a new business or a new shop came available? What were you looking at?
Oh, definitely passing trade and how many people went into a centre. Bushes would look at the demographics and the cultural side of an area. So obviously the eastern suburbs, northern suburbs, there's plenty of money around. I know that there was one stage there we had a store in Warriewood, and there's plenty of money around Warriewood, but it was a centre that just didn't get much foot traffic. So where we had higher rents, we didn't have the turnover to keep up with that sort of demand. Yep. And I was sent there for a couple of weeks to try and negotiate to maybe sell the store, because we did the research. Okay, it's not for us, Do we sign a new lease? Do we try and pass it on? So definitely the demographics and culture was a big one.
So after you moved on from Bushies, you went with Mano at Pride. You took that same system with you. You brought that whole process together along with Mano, or?
Oh, definitely. So obviously went to Pride, and I was friends with Mano. We used to compete against each other. We actually hated each other back in the day. So I've known the man for probably 20 years.
Yep.
And obviously he went out on his own from another big company.
Mm-hmm.
So we sort of held the same position at two big companies,
right.
And that's why we started to compete against each other. So we competed against each other in Bankstown, Miranda, Hurstville, wherever there was problems. They seemed to send us to try and fix issues. So it was quite funny. And at first we didn't get on, and then we realised we're just doing what we're being told. So yeah, but it was great for him to go out by himself. He obviously did it tough, like any new business owner, but he found his feet and obviously wanted to grow. So I went and worked for him, and it was the first time I ever worked for a private guy. Obviously, being a Bushy's boy and doing it the company way, or everything, your T's crossed and your I's dotted, and then learning a new way. Just thinking that you're a supervisor, you've worked for a place for 20 years, you know everything. As soon as you go to work for someone for a different day, your eyes are just lit up. So obviously I went to him because we opened up a new store in Campbelltown. And as soon as the people hear the word Campbelltown, they think, oh, okay, yeah, we know what you're going. But to take out there the same quality and product, the same price out to Campbelltown, and for people to come along and understand, obviously what we had to say about MSA product, the backing of moisture-infused pork, that sort of thing. The customers really valued what you had to say. And I was also lucky that I had another bloke with me, John Powell. He was a bloke that I worked with for probably 10 years at Bush's, and obviously gave him the chance to move closer to home. And just the staff, him and I had a different approach. We're very honest, straight up people to be able to give them the information. And we took that store obviously to a great height. And by the time you could click your fingers, we had 5 stores because the opportunity come up with Miranda, and obviously Miranda being so big, we had a store upstairs and we had a store downstairs, and they're 500 metres apart. And there was a totally different demographic in the centre.
I remember years ago, Campbelltown was probably not the most desirable place to hang out or to try to run a business. I worked for Big Fresh for a little while, Franklin's Big Fresh, and I got cast out there for I think a month or so. Just before I finished up with them, I think that was punishment. I think they called that. But
yeah, well, I can tell you a few stories about that, but we won't go into it live. Yeah. I tell you.
No. But today, like, that whole area has changed. Probably a bit like where I live now. But the whole demographics changed, and people out there in a lot of these areas where they perceive to be, a bit dodgy. These are the customers that spend money. These are the ones that actually they've got a regular income coming in every week. They go to work, they get paid, and they spend it. And so they like to go to the butchers and they like to buy fresh meat, and they deserve to be able to have that choice. Just don't form that opinion that because you're in an area which is low socio-economical area that you have to sell them budget meat, because that is totally wrong.
And if you did sell them budget meat, you would certainly find out the next day. So, which you knew. What's the advantage of selling a cheaper meat? Because I want my customer to return. So I want to be able to give them the best quality and the best service that you can buy.
Yep. And we all know it as butchers, and we've hit on it time and time again. Your customers want to come back. You want them to come back, and you've got to look after them. It's the service quality, the quality, the freshness of the meat. They deserve everything that you've got to provide for them, and that's the key secret to a successful shop.
Yeah, well, we knew we were good, but I think if you have that approach in the industry, you're not going to succeed. So I used to always teach my staff, right, we're going to think we're second best, right? Because there's always got to be room to improve. What can we do different? What someone else isn't doing it. So yeah, you need the quality behind you for sure.
Yeah. And building those relationships with your suppliers to ensure they're going to look after you as much as you're going to give them their business. I think that's also a very key point to maintain, is that whole relationship. I've been around only a couple of years more than you, probably about 10 years more. I've got a great relationship with a guy called Paul Kasparian, who owns Mackinac Meats. And Paul's been around for a long time, and for a lot of the butchers out there who are probably my vintage, they would remember a company called iMac. Paul was a salesperson there, and I dealt with Paul then, and I got a call off him one day, and he says, "Doug," he says, I'm only pretty new in this. He said, do you mind if I come out to your butcher shop and maybe spend a Saturday there? Because he was obviously worked through the week. And he came up to my shop at the Plateau there, and he did about 3 or 4 or 5 hours. He just observed, just looked, and just immersed himself into it. And after I got out of that shop, I sort of lost track of him. But we had this great relationship. So maybe 5 or 6 years down the track, we bumped into each other.
Yep.
When I was at Franklin's, and he was the main provider for meat for Franklin's then through Mackinac, and which was his new company, and we got along well for probably close to 10 years, 5 to 10 years or something. I was there. I can't remember how long it was, about 7 years, I think. And then from there, I never had much to do with him at all until I came to MLA, and all of a sudden you rekindle that relationship. But we've always got along well. I trust him 150% with what he sells me every time that I'm looking for meat, but that's the sort of thing with a long-term relationship, because a lot of butchers out there, they'll drop you for 5 cents or 10 cents a kilo, but you're going to lose in the quality side of it and also the relationship side, because these guys are there for you when you really need them. A lot of these wholesalers are just so busy. They love your business and they try to help you, but there's so many guys out there that just drop them for a couple of cents, and then they got to go back with their tails between their legs.
It's definitely true. It's where they step out of the passion that they're being trained in, and they move into the business. And I've found that over the last 5 years. I'm a butcher through and through, and the last 5 years managing 5 stores, you're losing the ability to be a butcher, and instead you're being a school teacher, you're being a HR officer, you're being an operations manager, you're looking about electricity, the wrong deliveries, the quality of delivery, all those aspects. And I think as businesses grow, people lose touch of what they're actually passionate about. And as you said with Paul's the type of guy where you mightn't talk to him for 5 years, and then when he sees you, he'll say, "Hey, how you going, you dirty rascal?" He's got that personality about him that you can trust.
Yes, he's very passionate about his business. He's built a great business there, and he's got a lot of, he really respects he respects everybody he comes across, because
and look what he's just done with the Australian Steelers.
I know, yeah.
He's got a couple of great young blokes that I've worked with, both his team there in Jack and Ben. He's making some headway, and he's showing his staff what he's about, helping him out, taking him over to America, and that's what it's about. So I don't think you're only as strong as your staff.
Yes.
And I think you need to make those conscious decisions. And I really appreciate what he's done for the industry.
Yeah, he's been a great role model as well. Like Paul's a lovely guy. I know one of the guys that works for him, Graham Wallace, who's been there for probably, God, I don't know how long. I think
100 years?
I think 150, I think it is. Cause I hope Graham's listening, because he's going to love this.
Yes, so do I.
I can just hear it now.
I'm sure we'll get a text message about that.
Does he know how to text?
He's probably got a Nokia.
So after Pride, you finally, and mate, I commend you for doing it. And I think it's been a long time coming. You went into your own shop in Illawong. So how's that been for you? As
I said before, it was a snap decision. Obviously, you're always looking around the market. Okay, can I afford this? Can I do this? And it's been with Pride for 10 years. And leading the boys around, I don't think there was any further movement for myself in the business. And this store obviously just popped up with a phone call one day. by Martin Painter, the TAFE teacher there.
Yep.
I love the Martin. He's a great guy. Another guy in the industry that is so passionate. Yeah, I don't think you could find another Martin.
No, definitely not.
Like what him, Andrew, and Ben do for that the TAFE.
Yeah.
They're great guys. But yeah, he just let me know that was for sale. And the best part for me, Doug, I'm 46 years old. My girls have gone from 0 to 10 years old in the click of an eyelid.
Mm-hmm.
And this store being 10 minutes from home, that's on a busy day. On a busy day, otherwise it's 8 minutes. That's how close it is. So yeah, it was a massive decision for me and the family, but I had to make it for me, and I think I've done the right thing. It's been a tough 4 months, very, very tough. It's going from being a supervisor, telling people what to do, or showing them what to do, leading them in the right way, to actually doing it yourself. It was a massive decision.
How many people do you have working for you there? 2 or 3 guys?
I've actually got a great crew, and it was part of my ethos, my journey, that I certainly wouldn't take away anything from the previous company that I'd set up. So I'd bought the store; it was self-running.
Yep.
So I've got a great butcher there, and you'll probably laugh at this, but I've got a butcher who's 60 years old. He's had his own business, Roscoe Brewer. He's from Guyamere, and a bloke that gets to work 15 minutes before he's supposed to start, works through his breaks, doesn't smoke, and you're showing him things during the day on Facebook, and then he looks at you and goes, "Come on, mate, we've got work to do." Tell me where you're going to find a butcher like that. It's like having my dad look over my shoulder and say, "Come on, mate, let's get into it." So I've been blessed there with him being the butcher. Obviously, I'm the other butcher. I've got the previous owner's wife still working there.
Okay.
And that's, once again, it's like having my mother there, because obviously she wasn't a butcher, and they got into the butcher shop as a hobby. Her and her husband bought it as a hobby. But I think after a while they realised it's, you don't buy a butcher shop for a hobby.
Wow, as a hobby. That's different.
As a hobby. So, yeah, they were led by obviously the staff that they had. And it was a big learning curve for them, I think, as well. But obviously staff coming and going, and it changed it for them. But they weren't young whippersnappers either. So for them, it was hard, and I think it was the timing was right, because they're not semi-retired. So as I said, Sonia still works for me, and Peter's gone back to selling cars. So
okay.
So yeah, very, very blessed in the staffing. So I've got a 60-year-old butcher, a 57-year-old lady, a 55-year-old cashier, so I'm actually the youngest. So it's quite funny.
Makes you feel good, doesn't it?
It does, mate. It does. I've got probably 10 school kids that come in of an afternoon, so they're in various year 10, year 11, year 12.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, really good crew of people that I work with. I'm very blessed.
That's key. That's very key. So the shop itself, it's in a shopping centre, or is it a strip shop, or?
Yeah, so Illawong's it's like a peninsula. You've actually got to drive out. There's only one way in, one way out, and so it is in a small shopping complex. It's been going for over 35, 40 years. So we're one butcher. We have a great fruit shop next to us. We have a great bakery, obviously a great cafe down there. There's a gym. There's a chemist, doctors, physiotherapist, obviously a grog shop and a Coles.
Got to have that.
You got to have that, mate. Got to have that. So yeah, it's a good little place. Obviously, it needs a bit of upkeep at the moment. The new landlords have had a bit of a kick in the butt by the locals. And obviously, I've only been here 10 years, so I'm not classed as a local yet.
Okay.
So it's cost me a lot of time in emails trying to give information back and forth to the landlords. But it's slowly starting to make its way forward in the upkeep.
That's good. You've got to communicate, don't you? That's a key thing. Is don't sit there and let little things bug you. If there's something not right in your shopping centre, you've got to communicate professionally with the owners or the landlords, whoever it is, to try and get change.
Definitely, yeah. It's a little bit hard too, because I'm normally working with the big Westfields, that sort of thing, as where this is privately run. The operations team don't work on site. They actually work at Parramatta. So you've got to go through the operations team to get through to the owners. So the owners have only had it for about 3 years. So I think they're still learning as well.
What are you doing different in there to keep the customers keep coming back? Was there any sort of loss in revenue when you first took over, or did it sort of take a bit of a spike up? Or
Yeah, I'm probably blessed once again bringing a lot of experience to the store. So my window display is only 4 meters. So
wow,
that's the hard part. Trying to get out a display, and in the last store that we just built, I had a window display of 17 meters. So going from 17 meters to 4 meters was quite a challenge, and you just can't get that range that you definitely want to get out there, what you used to. But since I've been in there, I've had a few small trays that I've put into the display, and just changing it from day to day, letting people know what you can get. And it also comes back to our service, where if you want something and you can't see it, just ask.
Yeah.
Whether it's a different cut, a different marinade, a different crumb, just let me know what you need and we can do it. If I haven't got it, we'll get it. That comes back to that customer drive and customer service.
That's what we used to do in my shop many years ago. We used to say the same thing. We had a back bar and we had a window plate. We didn't have
the old back bar.
The old back bar, and it probably didn't keep meat at a real good temperature either. But if we didn't have it, we would do it. Like if they wanted something crumbed, if they wanted something boned and rolled. Back in those days, it was like crumb stuff. Value adding, I think the biggest sort of value adding was tipping a bit of marinade over some beef strips or lamb strips, and that was it. That was the amount of value adding that we did. But the more the customers asked for, and those products, we started to put them on in our range, and we ended up with quite a few different ranges. We used to we were very lucky there, because those sort of customers, they were looking for that sort of thing, even though we didn't realise it, but we're actually we were just doing what they wanted, and it grew and grew and grew and grew, and we ended up with, I think, maybe about a dozen different value add things, not just stir fries, not just flavoured sausage, but different things that we were doing, pastries, and we were doing our own Kievs, and we were doing little lamb roast and that, because that was around the same time trim lamb came into vogue. And one of the biggest things was stuffed capsicums.
Yes.
And we'd just get a capsicum, like you. We had a little fruit shop down the road, which are very rare these days, and we just duck down there, grab a dozen capsicums. He loved us because we were buying so much fruit and veg off him, and we just do up a tomato and onion beef mince, throw it in the middle of a capsicum, and anything you stuck pine nuts on, mate, they bought.
It's funny you say that, stuffed capsicums, because it's been the last 3 weeks we've been selling stuffed mushrooms.
Okay.
So a box of mushrooms is going to cost you $50.
Yep.
So you work out, okay, am I going to sell it by the kilo? I'm going to sell them each. And obviously these big field mushrooms, they're as big as your hand. And obviously the first week we went through a box, and I'm thinking, am I going to sell it? It's $50. It's a $50 outlay here. Am I going to sell it, or am I going to end up taking it home? They sold out in 12 hours. In really? One day, the box had sold. The following week, we'll just do it again, see if we're lucky. Sold out. The following week, as in last week, 2 boxes in the one day. This week, 4 boxes in 2 days. I've actually got a friend at the markets who's gone and got me another 2 boxes. And that's just one line that we're talking about. So it's very funny. It's something that they haven't seen before, but it's come about us letting them know. A customer walks in and we said, have you come here for the stuffed mushrooms today? And then before you know it, they're walking out with 4 stuffed mushrooms in their bags. So it comes back to that communication between yourself and the customer.
What are you putting in them? What's going into the stuffed mushrooms?
No, it's actually a vegetarian recipe, but obviously we add bacon to it.
Okay.
And we had my first customer in today asking for, do you have them in the vegetarian? I said, no, but I can make them for you, but don't let anyone know. So no, we put baby spinach, feta cheese, Spanish onion, sun-dried tomatoes, garlic, salt, pepper, and bacon, of course.
And how do you cook them, Butch?
Yeah, exactly right. Well, I'm just in the midst of one of my cashiers that I have, like a junior. She's actually creating barcodes and QR codes where you can take a photo of the QR code and it's going to give you cooking information.
Perfect.
So it's something we're working on. You walk in, it's a generic butcher shop, but there's so much going on in the background that I'm trying to keep quiet at the moment, only because I'm going on holidays and I don't want the shop to increase anymore, because Roscoe and I, like, I'm doing 7 days a week at the moment. I honestly, hand on heart, haven't had a day off in 6 weeks. So I'm taking the family away. So we can't increase any more until I get back. But yeah, we've got plenty of things happening to increase, because obviously turnover rules the roost.
That's not a good problem to have, not being able to sort of take a bit of time out from the business, but it is a good problem to have, because you're obviously doing the right thing there. The people are appreciating the work that you're putting in, so they're supporting you.
Yeah, so it's a very small community, and obviously with social media these days, the smaller the community, the more everyone knows about you.
Mm-hmm.
So we obviously advertise 3 times a week on social media, because you don't want to bore anyone and you don't want to frustrate anyone. Oh, here they are again, Illawong Village Meats. So we change it up with a couple of different logos. We keep it funny. We keep it serious. Mm-hmm. We try and offer a genuine special every week as well. So yeah, but if you cough the wrong way, everyone knows, oh, hang on, is he sick?
Yeah, it's an important part of business today. Our socials, as much as I dislike them,
I agree.
You've got to use it. It's a have to, and don't, like you said, you're spot on. I've got a young girl that works for me, Tamara, and she works with me, Tamara, and she rules the social media pages. She's the social media queen in our team, or our small team, just her and me. She actually rules everything, but
yes,
she does such a great job with it in the ABG and the Australian Butchers Guild Facebook or Instagram pages, and she keeps it upbeat. Some of the stuff I look at, I look at what she does and I go, wow,
yep,
that's a great idea. You know, how do you get engagement, you know?
And that favourite word of theirs, I need content. Content. I need content. And it's funny you say you've got a girl, Tamara. You know who runs my Facebook? My 11-year-old daughter.
That'd be right, yep.
Yep. So I tell her what I want, and then she comes up, she'll go away, and she'll come up with an ad, and she'll have an ad that rocks left and right. She'll have it twisting left and right. She puts the colours in. I'll tell you what, she's sending me broke, because I pay her $5 an ad. Every day she's asking, do you need an ad done? Do you need an ad done? And I said, no, I've got to go back to work to pay for it first. So, yeah, it keeps you on your toes.
I've had a crack at doing some myself, not so much for work socials, but just have a bit of a play with it so I can sort of try and... Personal development, they call it, Trent. Trying to improve my own sort of knowledge around personals, and I'll have a crack at it, and then I'll spend maybe 2 or 3 hours trying to do this little video, and I'll just, that's enough. And then I've done really well there. I've got it all right. And then I'll go back to it about a week later and go, now...
It's taken you an hour and a half to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm the same, yep.
But then I go back and I go, shit, how did I do that? Yeah. I can't bloody remember. I'm hopeless. I'm hopeless like that. But that's where you've got to use using your daughter and using the youngsters, the apprentices in their stores that live on their phones.
Use the people around you. Yep. Yeah. Because we're never too old to learn.
No.
Or understand. I don't want to learn it. I just want to understand it.
And if you're in business, don't be shy to promote yourself, because that's what you've got to do. Because you look at everybody else, they're doing it and they're quite successful at it. Adam Stratton, perfect example. You know, I always remember sitting in my car at a set of lights in Hornsby one day, and this bus drove past with his melon on the side of it. Yep. You know, was it Tender Value Gourmet Meats or whatever it is? You know, unbelievable. And I thought, wow, how good's that? It was on the side of a bus. But good on him for being...
Remember that.
Yeah, I always remember that, and imagine other people out there that would have seen it, our customers of his or people that never went to his shop. Look for opportunities. You've got bus stops out there, you've got all sorts of stuff, not just socials, but you've got all this other thing out there. They're not that expensive to advertise on, and it's an investment that you've got to think to yourself, can I afford not to do it?
Back yourself.
Give it a crack, because these guys that are doing it are really, really good at it. Dan McCarthy down there in Geelong, brilliant butcher. He's got a beautiful shop down there. He does a lot on socials, and he's got a couple of girls working for him that do a lot of his value adding, and he's doing a little bit of work with me at the moment for me to do some little short clips. The stuff that they put out is just unreal, and it's just so professional. Even though it's just done on an iPhone in the shop most of the time, they just do it so well, and they've got that knack for it.
Yeah, that's right.
So what's the next steps? What's your value added range like, mate? I know you said you've only got a 4 metre window.
Yeah, we've got a 4 metre window, but honestly, in that 4 metre window, I've got 2 metres of fresh meat.
Yep.
And 2 metres of value add. So there's not one product in the window. Every day you assess it. With the computers these days, you can see what sells and how much you sell. So there's not one product in the window that I can take out. Mm-hmm. But there's products there where I can. Okay, let's put this in for the morning. Let's put this in for the lunchtime. Let's put this in the afternoon. And we change that round just to try and get that range out there. So if a customer comes in and wants a stuffed mushroom, I don't have any. But they've just come in. I haven't been able to get them out in the window, but yes, I can make you one. That new Mongolian stir fry you had last week. So I've got 5 stir fries, but I can't get them all out at one time. Yep, but not a problem. Give me 2 minutes. Do you have to get a coffee? I can make that up for you.
Yeah.
The other thing, I'm also investing in a new display cabinet so I can get the bulky roast items out of the window, and I can get more of a range where people can actually visualise a little bit closer, and it gives me more area in the window to get out. So it's frustrating, but without value products, that's what the customer wants. They want to come in and go, I don't have to do anything. I can take that away. I can put it in the oven. Bang, it's done. Because everyone's so time poor. Everything is about that word. Time, time, time.
Exactly. You hit the nail on the head there, mate. It's convenience and time.
And with our back to our social media, there's that many things on social media, not only through Australia in our own backyard, but over the world. Like look at the what the boys have just done in the World Butchers competition. Comes second, which is outstanding.
Yeah.
And I know a couple of blokes in the team, and I know the sponsor. But you see on Facebook all those other guys all over the world. They're at the click of your fingers. Yep. We can see what they're doing day to day. So there's all the ideas that you can get.
You've got to use it as inspiration.
You don't have to keep up with them.
No.
But if you can use their ideas and put your own twist on it, then away you go.
Yep. No, that was a great win for the team, for butchery in general. The teams themselves, like they cleaned up. We had a first in the apprentice competition. Matty Tyquin, I think it was. Then Gareth Hunt got second in the young butchers, and then you had Tommy Boucher, Peter Boucher's son, down in Victoria. He made the All-Star team. He was the best garnisher and display guy on the day, and then you had the Aussies coming second, which was in the scheme of things, most teams that were there had 4 or 5 years practice up their sleeve. They'd either competed together before, or they've been training since pre-COVID, when just before the last competition was on. And these guys, they had about 8 months.
Yeah,
that's all they had.
Shannon's done a great job with that team.
He spent a lot of time, a lot of effort, put a lot of blood, sweat and tears into that team, as much as everybody else did. They committed it from the beginning, and it's paid off tenfold for them. So, I take my hat off to him. And MLA is proud to be one of the major sponsors of the team, like through the Australian Butchers Guild. We were instrumental in starting it many years ago, about 12 years ago or something in South Australia. But it's been a huge growth ever since I think Trevor Saville took it over, and it became the World Butchery Challenge with New Zealand. It's just been fantastic for the industry, and I think butchers should be proud to do what they do. And like as got off the track there a little bit, but use that stuff as inspiration.
Correct, definitely.
Yeah. So where are you going for your holidays, mate?
I'm taking the family to Moreton Island. So nice. It's been cancelled for the last 2 years because of COVID, obviously. But the four-wheel drive is still roaring, ready to go. The new van arrived just before Christmas, which I'm very lucky, but just been able to, obviously the last 5 months I haven't been able to use it.
Yeah.
Working all the time, but it's time to put the family first.
Yeah, good on you, mate. Well, I hope you have a good trip over there. And what's the plans when you come back?
Well, it's the plan when we come back. We're jumping into Christmas. But for the business, it's about delivery. It's about the offering that the customer can get. Looking at a new product at Black Onyx, obviously, Black Market, and Australian Beef Group. With with the 150-day program of their Angus beef. So there's a few things on the market and being able to market that. And obviously, I'm in the midst of finding a new butcher and an apprentice. That's where we're at. So I can't move until I make that decision, and that'll be done in about 5 to 6 weeks.
Yeah, awesome, mate. Well, good luck with that. I hope it all works out well for you and you find the right people to join the team.
I appreciate it, mate. Thank you very much.
Well, thanks a lot, mate. It's been great to catch up finally. It's been a long time in between drinks, so I'll look forward to coming down and seeing the shop.
Mate, you're more than welcome anytime. Just bring your knives with you when you come, that's all.
I don't have any, mate.
No, that's all right. I've got a spare set there for you.
I've got no hands, mate.
Your knowledge is always welcome.
I don't know about that. All right, mate. Look, all the best. Take care, Trent. Enjoy your holiday, and we'll catch up with you soon.
Thanks, Douglas. All the best, mate.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Bye.